We're putting £10 billion extra into it.
I'm sorry, Prime Minister, but we have nurses going to food banks at the moment. That must be wrong.
We have, and there are many complex reasons why people go to food banks. And I want to develop an economy where, yes, we have a strong economy so that we can pay for the public services that people need.
Theresa May is desperately trying to appeal to the working class, but with cuts and other policies that hinder many thousands of people, could it be argued that on some policies she is mirroring Labour? Policies from Labour that have been in place for a long time. Theresa May has always maintained she wants to build a better, brighter future for this country. They are, after all, the party for the people, right? But isn't she now mirroring Labour's policy on social housing? Although I don't think she's quite got it right. She wants to work with councils and offer them support to build new social housing, but after a period of about 10 to 15 years, she wants to offer the house up in the right to buy scheme, but offering the tenants first refusal. And that sounds fair enough. Now, but we all know where Maggie Thatcher's right to buy scheme led us. It led us to the problem we have now. Yes, not enough social housing. Of course, when Mrs Thatcher brought that policy in, the councils probably, I hazard a guess, lost a lot of revenue. And how did she alleviate that? By issuing us common folk a tax. Yes, the poll tax as it was known back then. Wouldn't an increase in social housing and not selling them off increase the revenues to councils? Philip Hammond said at the back end of last year that he had set aside £23 billion over the next 5 years to boost Britain's productivity, including, he said, the lack of social housing. If you create social housing and then sell them on, that lack is still going to be there long term. In London and the South East, housing prices are high. We all know that. Unaffordable to many. But if you have a programme in place to continually create social housing and not sell them on, you'll have a continuous flurry of affordable housing. Labour's message, for the many, not the few, quite a good one, is the opposite of what the Tories are creating though, isn't it? Creating eventually homeowners with a substantial investment in property, which isn't a bad thing, but there is and will be a prolonged need for social housing. But on the upside, the Conservatives are raising the national living wage in line with average earnings, yes, average earnings, and that will be over the course of the next Parliament. And that's brilliant. That's a really good move. Thanks to Theresa May for that. But what about the pay cap they've had in place for the last 7 years?
We have in this country a huge number of working people, particularly public sector workers, who have now had 7 years of below inflation pay increases, a really tough freeze on their pay. That can't go on, can it, in the next few years? Or is it vote Tory and get more public sector pay freezes?
But also we have an economy where we're creating secure jobs and well-paid jobs and higher-paid jobs for people. Well, but you're only going to do that if you've got...
They haven't got enough money to eat at the moment.
So, where are these high-paid jobs? Well, there's a few of them in Westminster. Most of us just don't have the ability to get them because MPs will be given a £1,000 pay rise just gone in April, which will see their salaries rise to £76,000. Well, as I said and Andrew Marr has said, public sector workers face a continued cap.
Let's pluck out a specific example. Lots and lots of young people do a job that I wouldn't do and perhaps you wouldn't do. They decide to become nurses and give something back. Now, according to the Royal College of Nursing, they have had a 14% pay cut since 2010. And we now get stories again from the RCN of lots of ordinary nurses by the end of the week having to use food banks because they can't afford to pay for food. That is not the kind of country that you want to run, is it?
I want a country that works for everyone, not just the privileged few. If we look at what happens... Well, if we...
Apparently, the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority has announced that MPs' pay rise will be 1.4%, their second pay rise since the general election. Some politicians have said they will donate the pay in the rise to charities. It would be nice to get a copy of that list. Now, Labour MPs obviously are part of that rise, but as we can see from the policies, they want to give something back. Do the Conservatives want to give something back? for their pay rise? I think from the BBC clips in this episode, I fear not.
If you look at the proposals that the Labour Party are coming forward with, they're nonsensical proposals which simply don't add up and would actually lead to less money being available for the National Health Service, less money being available for public sector pay and higher taxes on people.
For the working people, what does that mean? A family that works and has an income over £80,000 a year is a working family, isn't it? Yes, Labour want to increase tax. Corporate tax. One of their policies is to freeze tax for all people below 80,000. She isn't wrong. Labour does want to increase tax, but in a way that long term we may all end up to some degree on a level playing field. So, once again, we all know what she's doing there. Once again.
That under the last government you made an absolutely clear and to many people ridiculous promise to never raise income tax, VAT or national insurance, the so-called triple tax lock. Are you going to repeat that?
We have absolutely no plans to increase the level of tax. It would be my intention as a Conservative government and as a Conservative Prime Minister to reduce the taxes on working families. And if you've got strong and stable leadership, that's absolutely what you can do. Look, when people come to look at this decision at the next election on June the 8th, they will have a choice between a Conservative party that has always been a low-tax party, that actually over the last few years has taken 4 million people out of paying income tax altogether, and a Labour Party that is about raising taxes, that is about higher taxes for the future. So a Conservative party that believes in lower taxes and whose intention is to reduce the taxes on working families, or a Labour Party that wants to increase tax.
Out of them 4 million people, how many of them are big earners and how many are low earners? We've all heard and seen celebrities, without mentioning any names, the use of loopholes to get away with paying big taxes. So, I say again, party for the people. But back to Labour's policy, just for a minute, on the tax freeze for people below 80,000. Why do you think some of Labour's PLP, very small amount now, and the Conservatives don't want Corbyn as leader? The Tories don't want Labour to get in. We have all heard most MPs earn money away from Westminster through public speaking. Some are even landlords. So would they want this policy to get through? I reckon not. Jeremy Corbyn, to some degree, probably earns through other channels £80,000, but he still wants the policy in. It's in the manifesto. What does that tell you about the kind of Prime Minister he would be? Really think about that. Could that be the real reason why no one in Westminster, and indeed the media, wants him on the hot seat? And not the fact that he isn't a good leader. Remember what I said in this episode. The illusory of truth effect. Repeat it often and people will believe it. Because as I always say, united, we really can have a better society and a better political system. And that really is the truth. Who will you be voting for on June the 8th? Do you agree what was said in this episode? Are you one of the few that earns over £80,000? If so, let us know below what you think. What do you say may be taken down and posted on Twitter? Ronald, Andy Edwards and Andrew Corpse made themselves heard. What do you want to say? Don't forget to click subscribe. Click on that little red button and get involved. Thanks for watching and I will see you again on Friday. Bye bye for now.